What is up, YouTube? This is Ned Kumar here with the next video. Hold on. I feel kind of scruffy. I feel like Beardman from The Completionist. And as we all know, there's only one Beardman in the internet. And that's not me. So excuse me for a while. I'll be right back. There we go. Much better. So once again, people, this is Ned Kumar here, and welcome to YouTube. And the next topic, how to really change a man. So, ever since I did my first video, I wanted to really emphasize on the whole, how a woman can really change a man. And so let's get to it. So in my last video, I said that, a lot of the reasons as to why men mistreat women is because women allow it. And that's very true, because, women have this sort of mentality where they think that the man will finally wake up and grow up and be like, oh, well, I have a great woman in my life, so I must treat her well. I can't treat her like this because then that's not right. So I'm going to grow up and treat her like a princess. That never happens. If you believe that, you're basically setting yourself for a lot of misery and pain. Because, nowadays, most men, at least 60% of them, don't really care about the emotions of their women. It's not like they're bastards, but it's just that they're really not aware of a woman's feelings. So, they can be mistreating them or not treating them the right way, and yet they won't know. To them, they're doing nothing wrong, because they're like, oh, well, this is how you treat women. And that's how they're supposed to be treated, because that's how men really are. Also, another thing is that if you're really giving him everything, you're taking care of him, you're giving sex, you're worried about him, while he's mistreating you, he's not going to change, because he's going to be like, why should I change when, this girl gives me everything while I'm being an idiot? So there is no need for me to, be better, be more aware of her feelings, be more conscious about her feelings, treat her right, not disrespect her, because at the end of the day, I'm getting everything, and it's a sad thing, because, I know a lot of you women stick with these guys because you love and care for them, man. I understand that, that's great, but at the end of the day, guys don't really care, now, there are some guys that actually care about women's feelings, let's say they mistreat them, and they see that, their women are suffering for what they did or what they said. They're like, oh shit, man, I gotta stop this, because if I keep doing this, it's only hurting my women, so I gotta really mature and man up and treat my women how she's supposed to be treated. But that's only like 40%. The other 60% of men are just douchebags and assholes, And there is actually a way where you can teach your man how he is supposed to treat you. Now, this is a little drastic, and, if you don't have the guts to do it, or you're not brave enough to do it, or you fear that if you leave that relationship, you're going to feel awful, this shouldn't be done. The first thing is this. Let's say he's mistreating you. You go into, look, listen, this is not how I like to be treated, So you either man up and shape up, because if you keep treating me like this, I'm leaving. You hear this? I'm leaving. So shape the fuck up, or I'm leaving. So usually, if the guy changes or starts to change, that's because he cared. He's like, wait, I'll be giving a warning. Enough with the shit. I will clean up my act. And let's say he doesn't. He just continues like, fuck this bitch. This bitch is lying. I know her. Like most men say. She'll say that now, but just give her time and she'll go back to her old self. And if he does, leave him. Maybe the first girlfriend will be like, she was just an idiot anyway. I'll do the next one. But if more women start to do this to him, he'll realize, oh shit, man, I really can't be acting like this, because if I do, I won't get a good woman in my life. I can't treat them like shit. I can't call them bitches. I can't humiliate them. I can't verbally abuse them or physically abuse them. I have to treat them like queens, like princesses. I gotta treat them right. Because if not, I am not getting a good woman. Another way to do this, if you're into the whole bad boy thing, which I don't approve of because, bad boys are just guys who fill you up with emotions. But when you look at their qualities, they have very little or none. Just be unique, Just be unique from any other type of woman. That way, we're like, oh, shit, look at this girl. I gotta change a few things or treat her this way. Because since there isn't any women like her around here, she's special, she's unique. So I need to treat her a certain way. But, if a guy sees that you're like any other generic girl, he won't really care how he treats you because in the end, after he leaves you, he just finds someone else who's almost like you. You know? So that's what you have to do, girls. I love you a lot. I know some of the things I say on my videos may sound mean, but it's just that I want to wake you up because, a lot of you girls seem to be sort of like this, with your eyes closed when it comes to relationships. And if you'd opened up, you would actually find good men. And, I know some of you might say, oh, well, why don't you make a video telling men how to treat women? It's like I said previously. Men don't really care, nowadays about a woman's feelings or emotions. If you go up to them and tell them, hey, you gotta stop treating women like shit because you're not getting anything. You're only hurting them. They'll be like, this guy's nine. He knows nothing, man. I have this girlfriend, I treat her like shit, and then I have someone on the other side. I'm the man because, I can do whatever I want with women, and they'll do nothing. That's why I don't tell them to treat you better. I am warning you girls, to wake up and see how men really are. I want you to have the necessary tools and the courage to leave these douchebags and find something better. I know it's hard. I can understand that, because let's say you've been with them for X amount of years. It's kind of hard to leave them. If you leave them and cry, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you've been with the guy for X amount of years. But let's say you leave the douchebag and you start crying and be like, oh, I miss him. I remember when we went to the beach and shit. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, cry all you want. Hell, fill your room with a fucking river from your tears if you want to. There's nothing wrong. But you have to know that if you leave this douchebag, you will find something else. If you value yourself, if you think that you're something great, and you have great defining qualities that'll make any man happy. Like, I have a lot of friends like that, and I tell them all the time, they have great defining qualities that make them to be perfect girlfriends. And if they become wives, they'll be terrific wives. But, these kind of women, they need shining and guidance. And once they learn their value and once they have proper guidance, they will get a man. This is Nerco Mal.